And then finally, to wrap this up, I want to talk a little bit about a game which I haven't finished yet, but I'm like halfway through. And I don't imagine it'll drop off too much. That is Cultic. Cultic Episode 1. So this game came out a while ago. There was a demo for it like a year ago or something like that, which I played and I loved it a lot. And then it came out and it was like a little out of my price range, but it went on sale. So I bought it and I've been playing it. I'm a couple hours into it. I'm like halfway through the game. Cultic is a boomer shooter. It's another in the long line of the boomer shooter revival games. It has... Okay, so... Dusk was definitely blood-inspired. It was definitely like... It was really obvious, especially in its aesthetics. Cultic is blood-inspired in its aesthetics as well as its gameplay. Looking back, Dusk doesn't have too much in common with Blood compared to a lot of other, that it doesn't have in common with, say, I don't know, like Duke 3D or even like, or Quake. I would say Dusk actually might even play more similarly to Quake than it does Blood, but aesthetic-wise, very much Blood-inspired. Cultic is going for both. It is very blatant about being a spiritual successor to the original Blood in its graphics, in its themes. Like it's about murdering the fuck out of a cult. If you couldn't tell, brown-robed cultists with shotguns and dynamite. Wow, does that sound like any game you've ever heard of? But in game, when I talk about gameplay, it's a lot closer to Blood. So, it's a crunchy, fast-paced, very, very good, like visceral feeling gunplay kind of shooter. But it also has these little, it's got dynamite. It's got the dynamite from Blood with the same kind of physics, and you can control how hard you want to throw it. Tossing it around corners. It works a little bit differently from the dynamite in Blood, where in that game you can either just toss it and it'll explode on impact, or you can light it and then it'll explode after a timer is done. In Dusk, if you just toss it without lighting it first, in Cultic, it's like dust. In Cultic, you can toss it without lighting it and then shoot it. You can shoot it when it's on the ground and explode, like remotely detonate it, which is fun. And you can also light it to make it blow up on a timer. It has, I'll say, more generous explosion physics than Blood does. Blood does have weird physics slightly. I love the way the explosions work in that game. But they're like this expanding sphere of death and not just like... So the cool thing in Blood is that when you toss the dynamite, in most other games, it just creates a big old hitbox explosion zone that does damage. In Blood, it's like creates that, but then it like in like a smaller area, and then it expands outward. So there's like if you're standing like a little bit away from the explosion, it'll like take like a split second to reach them. And also that applies to the physics as well. So things literally like blow away from the center of the explosion. And with how many little like destructible physics objects there are in Blood, it's so fucking awesome. It's so good. But there are like some tricky things in that game where like something explodes and it really feels like the explosion should have reached some enemy and it doesn't, and it can get a little bit janky. Cultic is a little more generous with that, and it generally feels like if something's around the explosion, it does get hit by it, which I appreciate. It has a little weapon upgrade system with these weapon parts that you can find and then use to upgrade your firearms at some specific workstations, some workbenches. The weapons feel really good. feel really good. This game has a really good shotgun, and it's a blood style shotgun where the primary fire shoots one of the barrels and the alt fire fires both at once, and then you got to reload after expending both shells, no matter what, which I always love shotguns that are designed like that, like the sawed-off from Blood. When you hit something with that thing, it's like... boom! So when I say that this game has like a really crunchy art style, it's low poly, and it's kind of like low resolution textures, but also the sound. The sound is a little like crusty sounding, you know? Like it'll do this thing where a sound effect will play and it almost sounds like it's breaking the what would you call it? The audio levels on like your speakers. And for these like big, it's not on everything. It's not just like constantly hurting your ears, but on these big like impact sounds, like when you get right up to something and just like punch a hole through it with your shotgun or set off dynamite or something. It's like, and you combine that with this massive, you know, lighting effects from the muzzle flash. It's not, I guess, muzzle flash. The muzzle flash and all the like viscera that pops out of them, and just the sound effect of like the hit happening and the sound of the shotgun itself, and then the impact. Like, it is really satisfying feeling. It feels like this thing fucking punches. It's a great shotgun. Another thing that I love is the pistol in this game, the handgun. So it starts off as like an actual worthwhile kind of like low damage, high fire rate kind of weapon. If you upgrade it to, I upgraded the, it's like every weapon will have like, or not every weapon as far as I can tell, but actually, yeah, every weapon. All the guns. Not the dynamite, and you get like Molotovs and like hatchets that you can throw, which is cool. Those can't be upgraded, but all the guns you can actually work on and upgrade. They each have like 4 unique upgrades, and that's it. The handgun, I upgraded it to have a tighter spread and do more damage, and that thing turns from like a pretty good little pistol to like a straight up like rail gun. It feels really good. It is like the revolver from Half-Life, kind of like you round the corner and I see an enemy down the hall and I just like double tap them. You just pop, and it kills so many of the more thin enemies in this game. It feels really good to use. Almost a little too good, because there's a lever action rifle that you get, and that is also like a long range, almost kind of sniper type weapon. No scopes in this game, but that thing also just totally jibs enemies from long distances, and it also feels really good. But the handgun is just way higher rate of fire, so it almost like encroaches on it a little bit. I don't know. Maybe I just still have to upgrade the rifle, so that it doesn't get like power crept out by how fucking good the handgun is. But whatever the balance, even if the game has some balance issues potentially, I'm not even saying it does. I'm not even all the way through the game. But even if it does end up having some weapon balance issues, it's offset a lot by how good they feel to use. It's a really good feeling game to play. I'm also playing it on hard, and I'm not sure how that affects what actual effects the hard mode has. But it does play really well on hard. It was a little too easy at first, and then around like level 3 or 4, the levels are really long too. Which is why I think I beat like 1 per session. And then I had a little bit more time, so I was playing like 2 levels per session in the last couple times I sat down with it. They are very long, and they're good. They never feel too long. They just you're just like, wow, okay, there's a lot of stuff going on. What was I saying? Yeah, right. I'm only halfway through the game, and if there is actual weapon balance problems, I don't mind it too much because there's still time for it to develop and for... I don't know if they'll introduce any more ones. There's quite a bit already that you've got. There's like a handgun, there's the shotgun, the rifle, the hatchets, there's dynamite, there's Molotovs, there's like a machine gun. Do I have anything else? I don't even remember if I've gotten anything else. But yeah, really, really solidly made, really great atmosphere, which is another thing that I think is really integral if you're sending up a game like Blood, is to capture how potent that game's atmosphere is. There's some like real good horror vibes in this game, in Cultic. Like scenes where you, like moments where you walk into a room and suddenly the music goes out. And it's like a scripted thing that when you walk into that room, the music goes out and there's nothing around. And you're looking around and you're kind of tense because maybe I didn't even realize the first time that the music had cut out. And all you hear is the ambience and like the hum of the lights. And you're walking around and then you open, there's a door that's open like just slightly, it's open ajar just a little bit. And you go up to it and you open the door and you walk in and then boom, oh my fucking God, the music comes roaring back and there's some freakish, terrifying enemy with a chainsaw who starts gunning it for you. It's like, holy shit. And he has a bunch of health. Great little moment of build up. Nice variety of environments as well. This takes place very much in like the 60s in kind of in like a rural community where this cult has taken hold. Very similar feeling to kind of how the first episode of Blood takes place in like the kind of like European countryside. Yeah, it's always at night. Everything's at night in this game. You go through like a couple, like there's crypts, temples, warehouses, hospital. I don't know if there's like a mental hospital you go under, which is cool. Some cool, I don't know, just really nice environmental design. I'm just feeling it. It's just like another really solid boomer shooter to add to the pile. And I really enjoy the way that it's sending... Oh, even more Blood references. All the stuff with fire. So fire is an important part of the original Blood. Because there's a lot of enemy interactions with fire. And you have several weapons that... Or you have at least like the flare gun, which is essentially the pistol. Has... Like that's your main way of setting enemies on fire. It's very accessible to you. Cultic has the Molotovs, which can light people on fire, but it also has like lamps that you can pick up. You can pick up a lot of the items in this game, and you can toss them. And if you toss the lamps, they hit the ground or they hit an enemy, and they just start spilling fire everywhere and lighting stuff ablaze. And it's cool. I haven't noticed too many like specific interactions. Blood had like the zombies that you could take care of by, you could make sure that they were dead by burning them and stuff like that. But, yeah, I'm really enjoying it. I would totally recommend it. And it's episode 1, which is impressive. I imagine a lot of the work for episode 1 went into, like, making the basic game function. And then from there, it was all just, level design and stuff. Hopefully, the sequel is a little faster and easier to make, just because I imagine the mapping tools are kind of figured out at this point. The mapping tools and the engine and all that are kind of hammered out. So from there, it would just be like asset creation and probably new weapons and enemies and stuff like that. Like hopefully it easier time, because this game's been in development for a couple of years, like at least 3 years, I want to say. I think I played the demo back in like 2021. I might be totally off on that, but yeah, I dig it. Totally recommend Cultic.